I find my faith in Jesus Christ to be very simple. Because my salvation is extremely simple. He's given me one way to get there, and I've got it. And I think the more things are complicated, the more they are human, and the more we are human, the more we are fallible. And so I think some of those, that's where the denomination stuff comes into a problem. Is God has laid out His church, and it is a church body, and it has nothing to do with buildings, it has nothing to do with denominations, it has nothing to do with separations. We are united under the same fierce grace that we have trouble understanding the depths of. And so I think that's where we run into the issues with those denominations is it just makes your life here harder.
Right.
It may actually lead to the same place in the end, depending on what the difference is. But like it just complicates your life, and I think that's where the struggle comes into.
It could have taken a road that's fairly straight to God and put some curves in it. Some unnecessary curves. That maybe if you'd have just maybe not worried so much about the extra stuff and maybe just focused a little bit more
you got on you
right on where you're going, maybe it wouldn't have been that big of a deal. So
there's a neat saying that I like that says, in essentials, there's essentials of the doctrine, of the faith, and the non-essentials. It says, in essentials, of course, unity; in non-essentials, charity; and in all things, love. Because Jesus, He said, isn't that what He said? How the world would know that we're His disciples is the love we have for one another. Yeah. And it seems to me that, denominations in and of themselves, you look at a lot of them, by the way they started, it was in revival. Wesley, and, you see these radical movements of God, and then it becomes more, perhaps like you guys are saying, man-centered. And I think if we could just get it back to the cross, that's what it's about.
One of the things that I really have pulled away with in the last year that I feel like I've gotten stronger with, or the Lord has made me stronger through, is my willingness to go to Him with questions. When my faith was weaker, I would say, I don't ask questions of God because I'm afraid that I'm going to be given an answer that's going to lessen what I currently believe in God. And that's foolishness. To the extent that I'm going to God for information, I mean, am I going to ask Him a question that He's not going to be able to answer and answer sufficiently? Like, that's a fool's parade. And I think recognizing that no matter what I read, no matter what I see, no matter what I hear, the Creator of the universe has an answer for me. All I need to do is let it go and give it to Him. That is a weight that has been off me, and I've been really feeling it this year. And I'm excited about that because, I don't run from things. I see an article that pops up on, the CNN Faith blog, and a year ago, 2 years ago, I might have looked at it and was like, I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it. It might throw me off course. Now I'm in there. Put me in. I want to deal with it. I want to see it. Because now I know, if I have questions from that, who else am I going to go to but my Father to answer those questions? And that's I don't know, that's really, really helped me this past year.
Yeah, that's a good word, because, God's not offended by our questions.
Right.
He's not troubled by our questions. In fact, it's sort of foolish to try to hide them from Him, because He already knows that they're there in the back of our mind. And something that I like about Jim, and I think one reason that we click so well, not that that's a good word, click, but speaking of denominations, but one thing that I love about Jim, we were talking about this earlier, is just the ability to be real. Mm-hmm. I think it's important for the church to be real, and if we're afraid of the hard questions or the challenging issues or whatever, then people don't see that, man, this is a real God that we serve. Mm-hmm. He really does have solutions for the things that we face, and the things that we feel like, man, we cannot get through. He can give us the strength to walk through it. Yes. And He's real. And so if I'm struggling with, some sin in my life, or I'm struggling with some question I don't understand about eternity, who completely understands eternity anyways, Yeah. If I'm struggling with some theological question and I think that somehow I'm going to offend God, or I can't go ask, a brother or sister in the body or a pastor or someone about that, then it causes people, I think, to sort of back away. But if we realize, man, God is awesome and He loves us, and mm-hmm. He's not offended, don't be afraid of those questions, because there's answers.
That's actually a pretty cool statement. Is the thought that real church equals real God. You know what I'm saying? For people who don't, and it makes the flip side true. Phony church equals phony God for people. People who don't have a current relationship with Christ, and they walk in, they're like, what is this? What is this bananas?
People see one of two things. They either see someone who is overly pious, and of course piety is great, and it's good to be holy, and we're shooting for that. But they see that in someone's life, and they either, I'm speaking of someone who's maybe really legalistic or whatever, and they either see, I can never be like that, so why try? Mm-hmm. Or they know that person, and they know they're not really like that, right. And they realize they're not real.
Yeah.
And so I'm not going to go there. You know what I mean? It's like, well, if we're just real, like, man.
Isn't that crazy, though, that people are taken back when they find people of genuine faith?
Yes.
And you think, that's embarrassing.
Yeah.
That must mean there's a lot of people out there who call themselves, I don't even use the word Christian anymore, because it's just the word's been watered down so much. It's either you're a Christ follower or you're not.
Yeah.
Yeah. But people are shocked by genuine faith. They're surprised. That's probably the number one thing we get at our church. Is like, oh, you're so genuine. We'll get it. It's like, how else do you do it?
Well,
I don't know how.
One thing that comes back to an overarching theme that we've had here is we should be moving in strength.
Yeah.
We should be moving in focus. We should be moving strongly. There's just a lot of weakness. There's a lot of timidity there that that feels out of place next to an all-powerful Creator.
Yeah.
That's giving you a way to go. And hanging out in the shadows and waiting for stuff to happen. We tend to be a reactive culture. We tend to be a hesitant culture. We tend to be a timid culture. And none of those things reflect the character of God. And so, it's just one of the things that we keep coming back to is there's just strength. And actually, it's weird that we're back on the when I was talking about the 1 Corinthians 6, the very beginning of that was another thing that I got from it. This is in verse 12. And they're talking about sexual immorality, but this part really got me. It said, "I will not be mastered by anything." Think of the things that we are allowing to be mastered by, things that we're allowed to be conquered by. And it's because we're not moving in strength. Things are happening to us. Here's our situation. We like to have things happen and then pull ourselves back up, like be relieved of things. Oh, I conquered something. No, conquering would have been you didn't get there to begin with. You didn't allow that to happen. Mm-hmm. You understood the grace that your God has. You understood the strength that you have through God. We got to sometimes we get used to the feeling because we like overcoming things, but sometimes we wait till it's too late. We wait to be overcome so that we can overcome when, we hit it at the door. Say, no, I'm not even going to open it. We're not doing this. You put me anywhere. I one of the things that I stopped praying for, to run, although there's a benefit to this, but like I stopped praying necessarily to run from temptation. I started praying so that I can recognize it and call it by name and attack it with strength. Like that's I don't want to run scared. I want to stand firm, because it's not temptation if I'm never in the room with it. And again, there's a benefit from that. I mean, there's a place to start from things, but really what I want is I want to be able to see something coming and say, the strength that I have through my God says, I don't care what you have. I don't care what that is. I don't care what you're offering. I'm fine. Thanks. Go about your business. Because then again, if members of the church body can never be around anything that's tempting, you'll never get to someone who is being tempted successfully.
Which one?
Yeah. You bringing in a man?
Actually, I'm pretty excited next week. Syndrome of Fire is going to be here.
Yeah.
And we thought we were going to miss them because they were going to. They're hit to have an East Coast tour coming up, and they were going to leave the day before the show next week. So we were going to miss them, but something changed about their plans. They're going to be able to make it. I'm pretty excited for it.
Yeah.
That's yeah.
I looked them up. They're pretty hip.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
You've been listening to
Facebook,
Live from the Path on DesMoinesAmplified.com. Again, you can catch us during the week on LiveFromThePath.org. There are archive shows. You can sign up for the audio podcast, especially if you're having trouble with the technical issues with the show. The podcast is clean. Should have no jitters, things of that nature. So you can also get to our YouTube channel, and you can interact with us on the blog and send us an email because we'd love to hear from you. Next week, again, Syndrome of Fire will be in the studio, and we'll be taking your calls. I'll give you the number next week. We didn't get any calls this week because I didn't tell you could call in. But the studio phone is live, so I guess we will see you next week here on Live from the Path on DesMoinesAmplified.com.